Pak Luhut responds to increase in naughty tourists and calls for a tourist tax, and price rise is expected before Eid. Stay tuned for details. Welcome to the latest news from Bali in Indonesia. This is April 4th, 2023, and my name is Bruce. What is the weather like today in Singaraja? It is overcast, 30.5 degrees Celsius, humidity 69%, and the wind speed is a brisk 26.4 kilometers per hour. Looks like it may rain. Didn't yesterday. Well, there was a little drizzle, but nothing really to speak of. And it could rain today. It looks like we're still not quite out of the rainy season yet, but coming soon. And I hope the weather is great wherever you are. So naughty tourists and deportations and Indonesian politicians and ministers getting into the act and putting in their 2 rupees worth is still a big story in the news, and I expect that it's going to stay that way with elections in another, less than a year now. And there has been some bizarre behavior here recently. Story that I'm not really going to cover. A guy showed up in a government office wearing only his underpants and went into a rant and was eventually taken to Bangli to check, and apparently was a disturbed individual according to authorities. And there have been a few other of these incidents of foreigners behaving really strangely, and it leads one to wonder, how did they get here in the first place if they've only been here for a few days and then they go off in pretty extreme measures? How are they able to navigate buying a ticket, getting on a plane, going through immigration, going through customs, going to their hotel? Kind of surprises me, perplexes me, intrigues me. I'm not sure which word I want to use there. Anyway, let's get into the first story. Pak Luhut responds to increase in naughty tourist taxes called for again. So the coordinating minister for maritime affairs and investment, Pak Luhut, was furious at naughty tourists in Bali. Therefore, he wants the tourist tax to be implemented immediately. He's received various reports stating that these Caucasians demean law enforcers. Considered outrageous, he went down to take care of it directly. In the near future, he said, at least we will focus on taking action against various forms of violation of public orders that have been committed. This was in his upload to his Instagram account today, actually, the 4th. More than that, he said, I also ask that the initiative to implement a tax for tourists entering Indonesia is immediately realized. Pak Luhut revealed data from the 2021 Travel Tourism Development Index, and it was confirmed there that the expenditure of foreign tourists in Indonesia was lower than in countries that offer quality tourism. He said that was one of the factors that we have so many naughty tourists in Bali. Therefore, Indonesia must move towards quality tourism. And just the other day, there was a report out by people involved in the tourist industry in Bali saying we need to bring in more tourists. And how do we do that? So as usual, no consensus on what do we want. We want more, we want better. Can we get more and better? What is better? What are quality tourists? Remember a few videos ago, I was talking about government description of what a quality tourist was, and one was the length of stay, how much money they spent, and did they respect the country and the culture. So Pak Luhut said that he's convinced more than ever that we have to return to tourism transformation roadmap going from mass tourism to quality tourism. Regarding taxes for tourists, Pak Luhut said this incentive would be very useful for financing the development of destinations and tourism promotion, as has been implemented in several countries which also have a large tourism industry. Pak Luhut called for a study to be carried out immediately for disincentive policies for foreigners from several countries which often have problems. Sounds like something that Pak Koster mentioned last month. This is important so that foreign tourists who come are well selected. Pak Luhut continued, all these steps and efforts will be successful if we have the same spirit, namely never to underestimate Indonesia. Show that we are a nation that really respects the noble values of culture, traditions, and regulations. If foreign tourists want to enjoy the beauty of Indonesia's natural panorama, they must first understand and respect the noble cultural values, traditions, and regulations enforced in this country. And so you heard it from Pak Luhut. And some more on the Bule's behaving badly. Caucasians against police in Ubud have been deported. In the last 3 months, Ngurah immigration deported 40 foreigners. So these are the statistics from the Ngurah immigration. Each immigration office has its own statistics from what I understand. So the Ngurah immigration office says that they are fully committed to supervising foreigners and taking action against foreigners who violate the law within the area of Ngurah immigration office. From January through April, 40 foreigners have been deported from the Ngurah immigration office. And from the period just the other day, March 31st, up until April 2nd, there were 8 foreigners deported. Of the 8 foreigners, 4 were from the Philippines, 2 were from Uzbekistan, and 1 was from the US and another from Australia. The one from Australia was apparently the lady who had gone viral on social media for fighting with the police. The head of the Ngurah immigration office, Pak Sujito, said that of the 40 foreign nationals who have been deported, 26 were deported due to their stay in Indonesia territory exceeding the period of their visa. 14 were as a result of violating laws and regulations, including misuse of residence permits, most likely because they were working illegally. And here are some numbers. The majority of foreigners deported came from Russia, 14, Philippines, 4, US, 3, Saudi Arabia, 3, UK, 3, Nigeria, 3, Italy, 2, Uzbekistan, 2, Australia, 1, Kyrgyzstan, 1, Latvia, 1, France, 1, Uganda, 1, and Jordan, 1. And there was another story about this same article. This is from the Indonesian press. From the English language press, they covered exactly the same stuff here, but their headline was, most people deported are Russians, so different take on things. Pak Sujito said in response to the display of banners, I guess, on social media about immigration turning a blind eye to violations by foreigners, he said that the office is continuing to work to supervise foreigners by conducting immigration patrols and are committed to taking action against foreigners who violate law. He said they do this not only through field patrols, but also digital patrols through social media channels. And I think people are starting to get this idea that you're working illegally here, you don't want to advertise it on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or YouTube or whatever. And he thanked the community for being proactive, providing reports regarding the activities of foreigners through immigration channels and complaints to the office. He said the number of deportations, proof that we are not standing still. We are continuing to work to supervise and take actions against violations by foreigners. Indonesia, he said, adheres to the principle of a selective policy, namely, that only foreigners who provide benefits and do not endanger security and public order are allowed to enter and be in Indonesian territory. And a story on that is coming up right now. Story of French citizen deported after protest about speakers in mosque and causing trouble in West Lombok. So a foreign national from France was finally deported to his country early Saturday morning at around 4:15 in the morning. Wow, early. The French citizen looked relaxed, wearing short jeans and a Javanese wayang patterned shirt with a small bag slung over his right shoulder. Apparently was not too unhappy about being deported. He showed absolutely no remorse. He will be flown to Jakarta, and then from Jakarta he will be flown to his country at 11 o'clock Jakarta time, according to an officer from the Mataram Immigration Office. He said the French person came into Indonesia on a visa on arrival. He has no criminal record, and this is the first time he's made a mistake. He's being kicked out anyway. Based on directions from the Indonesian Director General of Immigration, foreign tourists who do not comply with and violate public order and regulations must be dealt with severely. And so what is he being deported for? Well, according to this article, he caused trouble by coming into a mosque. And he walked into the mosque because he was unhappy with the prayers from the mosque over the loudspeakers, and he walked into the mosque wearing his shoes, okay, which is a definite no-no. And he was asked by a person in the mosque to please take off his shoes. He refused to do so and went on a rant about the loudspeakers and demanded that the sound be turned off because it was disturbing his sleep. According to the caretaker for the mosque, he said, "I was surprised when he came through the back gate. His house is only 100 meters from the mosque. He went up to the mosque wearing shoes. I immediately said, 'Take off your shoes. This is a place of worship.' I use Indonesian, and he can speak Indonesian too, but he's challenging. He asked for a video in order to make it viral." Pak Zul, the Indonesian caretaker, admitted that he only took photos of ER. He did not do a video because he was there wearing shoes, and he said he was very emotional, and so he sat down to kind of collect himself, and he sent the photo to other residents of the village. He said, "I was very angry that the Caucasian was rude, but I held back my emotions so I wouldn't hit him." He asked me if I was the boss at the mosque. I told him there was no boss in a place of worship, so residents came and they asked him to leave the mosque. Eventually, the residents calmed down, but the French person continued to protest against the sound of the mosque, which he heard all day until midnight. The head of Batu Bolong hamlet said that it was fortunate that at the time the residents were able to control themselves, not burn with emotion, and asked the French person to return to his house. This incident was reported to a variety of government officials, including Mataram Immigration, and he apparently had been in Mataram for 25 days. And the head of the village said, "I only found out about this after the problem. His wife's an Indonesian citizen, but currently is in France." So he did not report, apparently, that he was staying there, and somebody needs to report him to the local officials to let them know that a foreigner is residing in the village. And usually if you're staying at a homestay or a hotel, whatever, you fill out the forms and then they report for you. And so there is one individual case of deportation, and so lots of deportations still going on. The crackdown continues. Okay, enough of that. Let's get on to some real life for most of us. Prepare for commodity price hike ahead of Eid, says BPS. The Deputy for Distribution and Service Statistics at Statistics Indonesia, BPS, Pak Puji Ismartini, has appealed to the community to be prepared for the potential for an increase in commodity prices ahead of Eid. And of course, this happens every year. Here in Bali, it happens before Hindu ceremonies, Christian ceremonies, Muslim ceremonies. Prices of things go up because people are buying food, because you're going to have a lot of people over at your house. You're going to be cooking and baking and doing all that stuff and making good food. And so prices go up, up, up. According to the BPS's data, in previous years, the goods and services that usually experience an increase in prices ahead of the Islamic holy day are beef, broiler meat, shallots, broiler eggs, and flight services, transportation. Eid this year is expected to fall on April 22nd, so another little less than 3 weeks away. The increase in air transport usually occurs due to the huge number of people undertaking homecoming travel ahead of the holy day, and that's Mudik, right? If you've been here a long time, I'm sure you're familiar with Mudik. If you are new to Indonesia or new to this channel, Mudik is when people go home for Lebaran or Idul Fitri, and it is a huge, huge mass movement of people, a lot of them coming from Java into Bali to visit relatives or just to take a vacation too. And something coming up on that in just a minute. The increase in prices of beef, broiler chicken, and broiler eggs is usually caused by high consumption. For example, eggs are usually used to make Eid cakes, and my wife has dozens and dozens and dozens of eggs, and she will start cooking soon. She hasn't started yet, but she'll be making cookies and stuff. Oh, I don't know, in probably the next few days. And this baking will go on and on and on right up until Eid. Inflation for the month of March was 0.18% compared to February on a month-to-month basis. And for the year, inflation is recorded at 4.97%. And what about travel? So we've got Mudik, right? People are going home, and people are also taking vacations. And here in the kampung, I can tell when outsiders are here, well, because I don't recognize them, and I've been in this kampung for 33 years almost, and so I know everybody. But I can tell, like, when I walk down the streets or the gang here, somebody will shout, "Look, a tourist!" Deputy Governor, Lebaran holidays boost wisdom. Wisdom in this case is domestic travel. The Deputy Governor hopes that the 2023 Eid holiday can boost domestic tourist visits to the island of the Gaz on a regional scale up to 20%. He said in 2018 and 2019, Nusa Dua and Kuta had numbers up to 20%. That was before the pandemic. He said at present, the average tourist visits to Bali range from 9,000 to 10,000 people a day. Yeah, there are so many conflicting reports about how many people are coming in here. I mean, the other day I saw somebody saying there was 15,000 to 20,000 a day. Well, who knows how many are actually coming in here a day? Anyway, the Deputy Governor said he's hoping that during the Eid holiday, that number will increase to 15,000 a day. According to the Deputy Governor, people coming to Bali for the Eid holidays are balanced between air travel and vehicle travel. Moreover, he said tourist accommodation facilities in Bali are very well prepared, including various locations and tourist objects that are all set to go. Thus, it's believed that there will be no obstacles for tourists who want to have a vacation in Bali. The flow of homecoming from Bali is predicted to enter its peak starting April 19th, 2023, especially for travelers who were deported for areas outside of East Java. So we're going to have people coming and going, right? We've got a lot of people who live on different islands, especially in Java. They're going to be going back to Java for Eid, and we've got people who are working in Java who are from Bali, and they're going to be coming here to see family, and people who just want to take a vacation and will be here as well. And so the roads are going to be full. This is not a good time to travel. If you are new here, I would just stick around wherever you are, because traveling is going to be crazy once Mudik starts. And Mudik will probably start in another week or so. He said the 19th here, but people get started early. And this is going to be the first time since, 2019, that we have a Mudik where people are legally able to go. There were restrictions the last couple of years on the number of people who were able to travel, but of course, people didn't pay any attention to them. They found ways to sneak in and sneak out regardless of what the government said. And so it is going to be a busy, busy time. So if you are on the roads, be extra careful, because you're going to have people traveling here who have been traveling for a long time. And we always have a lot of accidents during Mudik, and unfortunately a lot of deaths, because people are they're tired. There's too many vehicles on the road. People are going too fast. And so, yeah, I stay at home. Of course, I stay at home almost all the time anyway. And let's end up today with something on COVID-19. For those of you who are new to this channel, this used to be called the Bali COVID-19 Update, because I was talking about the situation with COVID 2, 3, 4 times a week sometimes. And we haven't talked about this in a long time. Government keeps COVID-19 emergency status until May. You can't even tell that COVID is around anymore. If you go anywhere, there are still people that wear masks, but not that many anymore. So the government has decided to maintain the health emergency status of COVID-19 pandemic at least until May this year. Coordinating Human Development and Culture Minister Pak Effendi made the announcement on Monday following a coordination meeting with the Health Minister, the Agricultural Minister, and the head of the National Disaster Mitigation Agency. For the emergency status of COVID-19 pandemic, we are waiting for new developments until May, when we will learn about an announcement from the WHO. A little history here. Pak Jokowi declared a COVID-19 public health emergency in March of 2020. Wow, 3 years ago? Over the increasing number of infections and deaths across the country. And during that time, he instructed his cabinet to impose stricter rules on physical distancing coupled with civil emergency policies in an effort to contain the worsening COVID-19 outbreak. And in October of last year, the president ordered the health minister to start a consultation process with the WHO before Indonesia could start taking steps to declare the COVID-19 pandemic over. And so maybe in May we will officially be out of it. And that is it for today. There is just a lot of news about people being deported and bad behavior still going on. And, you know, my wife says, oh, did you see the latest video of somebody arguing with the police or driving around half naked or doing whatever? And this is going to be in the news. Well, partly because, you know, foreigners are interesting. You know, we're just interesting. We're kind of like zoo creatures sometimes. It's Indonesia. You gotta love it. You gotta love it. So I hope that you are enjoying yourself. If you are here, if you are planning on coming here, we're hoping that the weather is going to get better. This tourist tax thing that Pak Luhut was asking for, is that going to happen? I highly doubt it. I imagine there's going to be a lot of pushback about that. Like, oh, people will not come here and they will go to Thailand. Of course, there's people going to Thailand already. One, because they want to smoke pot legally. Another, because they don't like being in the spotlight. There's a lot of different reasons people go into different countries. If there was a tourist tax, I imagine that would get some people to leave here or not come here. Hopefully, things will calm down and we'll have less and less of these constant viral videos of tourists zooming around and doing this and doing that. But that's part of mass tourism. Like I said the other day when I did the report on the British in Amsterdam, and there was another story I saw yesterday about Italy. I think Venice complaining about tourists. Tourists behave strangely all over the world, not just here. Okay, thanks for viewing. Be kind to someone today. Stay safe, and I will see you next time.